And good morning. This is the Great Basin prescribed fire briefing for Monday, November 27th. Looking at prescribed fire activity starting to really diminish. This map was much more active before Thanksgiving, and obviously during the holidays things go down. Only two major projects going on. A few small starts down south where it's been fairly dry. With this diminishing prescribed fire activity, we will be temporarily discontinuing this product from middle to late December on till after the new year, typically a low burn period with the holidays coming up. Precipitation the past 7 days, fairly light, minimal in southern Nevada, only a couple hundredths to a quarter inch elsewhere. Only exceptions are parts of southern Idaho, where they had about a half inch to three quarters of an inch, similar amounts in the higher terrain of Utah. Snow cover on the map here on the right. You see quite a bit of it across not just the higher terrain of Utah and western Wyoming, but also across the valley areas where they had the recent snow this past week. Also quite a bit across Utah, not just in the mountains, but here across the West Desert District, you see a little shade of gray. That is basically a trace to 2 inches of snowfall, also continuing to much of northeastern Nevada. You can see the recent snowfall, some heavier amounts in the mountains of Utah in the past 72 hours. 100-hour fuels, quite moist across parts of Nevada. The driest we have is this yellow, and even that is anywhere from 11 to 15%. So that's already getting still, quite moist. Overall, high pressure in control across the west. You see it centered through here. Next storm system we'll be watching for later in the week, currently spinning out into the Pacific. You can see that little low way offshore. Otherwise, high pressure, this tannish shade of bone dry air pushing into the region. Ventilation index, which is basically a dispersion index, a combination of horizontal transport and vertical mixing. Nothing really that great unless you go down south. Low sun angle this time of year and high pressure causes inversions to linger. You can see the humidities here on the right-hand side quite high. These are minimum humidities, anywhere from 50s to 70s and 80s in Idaho, only getting down below 30 in the south. On the left, surface winds quite light in most areas except in the far south. Same story with the transport winds, the vertical mixing heights. You see these inversions here, these purple shades vertical mixing only getting up about 75 to maybe 500 feet above ground level. A little bit better in the south. High pressure still over the region on Tuesday. Similar overall ventilation indices. Again, very high humidity. So other than broadcast burns, kind of high. Hard to see anything really getting dry enough to burn through here, but still dry across parts of western and southern Nevada. Winds are fairly light at the surface. Transport winds also fairly light, except on the ridges here in the orange that you can see through here. Again, the vertical mixing shows where these inversions will continue. A lot of this has to do with the snow cover on the ground, keeping those inversions through at least the noontime hours, if not longer. Do get a change on Wednesday. High pressure moves out, a trough of low pressure starts carving out across the region. We'll start getting reflected on the ventilation index soon. Wind still fairly light, but that'll be changing. The RH still quite moist. Overall, no big changes on the mixing heights except coming up a little bit further northwards across Nevada. 3-day precipitation totals you see through here starting to edge into western or northwestern Nevada late in the period. There'll be some moving into southern Utah as well. But on Thursday, a lot deeper moisture as troughs of low pressure starts pushing on in. You can see the ventilation index. We start seeing more white and yellow on the map. That is a good sign for better overall ventilation. And then on Friday, widespread clouds and precipitation across most of the geographic area. Another system waiting in its wings. Excellent overall dispersion, but of course it could be coming with moisture. And then the moisture train really picks up over the weekend on Saturday. Widespread clouds and light to locally moderate precipitation. Shifts a little bit further into central and northern areas, but you can see a continuous push of moisture, a lot of it associated with the current El Nino pattern as we get into the end of next weekend. Precipitation, this is Thursday through Saturday, widespread, although light to just locally moderate amounts. And then days 6 and 7, this is Saturday morning through the end of Sunday and into early Monday morning. Some locally heavy amounts in the mountains of northern Utah, western Wyoming, parts of the Idaho mountains, but starting to dry out in the south. These are the 7-day totals. And the 8 to 14 day does show for next week, December 4th through the 10th, a return to warmer than normal temperatures, also drier than normal across the southern third of the region, but wetter than normal patterns continue across central and northern areas. This concludes our briefing. We'll continue again on Wednesday and Friday. Friday will be our last smoke dispersion briefing until after the new year. Have a good one.